thank you, Matt Reeves, and the showrunner, whose name I'm forgetting. I'm sorry. Thank you for creating this universe, and thank you for creating an actual villain and not trying to make us sympathize for him like the Joker movie did.
Keep it true.
Thank you for making
straight.
Not only did you make him a villain, you fully leaned into it, and you said this guy is not just evil, like doing evil things. This dude is unlikable down to his core.
Yeah.
This dude is messed up. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Comic Room Podcast. I am Spro, and here with me I have Mr. Longbox. This is issue 19.
I think it's 19.
19. We just got done watching the Penguin finale. So we'll be talking about that. Other things we got on the slate. We got a couple pieces of news, some MCU trailer, and kind of news related to the Batman. Just rumors and then got debunked, but figured it's worth talking about anyways.
Sure, why not?
And then show and tell as always. Did I already say that? And yeah, then we'll probably mostly just be talking about the Penguin finale. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, for sure.
Timestamps in the description below for you to skip around if you only want to listen to Penguin talk. So yeah, let's just start off with show and tell.
Okay.
So kick us off.
All right. So my show and tell today has got a personal story to it, but I'll just start by showing you what it is.
All right.
This is a Superman issue number 67 in a CGC slab 6.0 white pages, which is really cool. This is from 1950, November 12th, 1950. So just coming up on 76 years old. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
You know, and it's cool because the cover is you got Superman and you got Lois Lane swooning with hearts around her face, and then sitting at a mic, kind of like me here, is his super crooner Perry Como. And for those of you who are listening, it says, in this issue, can even Superman blast Lois Lane's super crush on super crooner Perry Como? I mean, so as you guys know, if you've been watching or listening to this podcast for very long at all, I have a thing for covers or comics that can be very closely tied to the time period they came out, because they become sort of historical time capsules. And so, you know, how long ago was Perry Como a super crooner? I mean, if you're a Perry Como fan, he's always going to be a super crooner in your heart, right? But to be on the cover of a comic book, like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, this is Frank Sinatra sort of stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So how many of you guys even heard of Perry Como, right?
The name's familiar, but I don't think I know who he is.
Christmas ideas. The Perry Como Christmas album coming your way. You have to promise that you'll play it one time. But he is really one of those smooth crooners. He really is. But anyway, the story behind this, and I just got this back from CGC. I've had this in my collection since the 80s. I bought it, I acquired it at a convention in I was about to say San Leandro, but it was actually Oakland. I think in 1987 or 88. I went to this convention, and this was there, and I traded a handful of McFarlane Spider-Mans for this. That I picked up either on the newsstand or I think maybe in the dollar bins. They just come out, and I just picked them up because I heard McFarlane was this hot new artist, and I picked up. So I traded a bunch of those. I'm not going to say which ones, because then you'll immediately tell me I made a mistake. I'll never think it's a mistake. I can always get my hands on those Spider-Mans if I want. But this book right here has a sentimental value to me because I picked it up and I brought it home, and I had been collecting for about 5 years at this point. And it wasn't until my parents were always sort of like, "Oh, that's interesting, Bob," you know?
Yeah.
But I brought this book home, and I explained to my dad how I got it, you know, because he was, you know, he's you know, OG Silent Generation, you know, read Superman as a kid, and suddenly I'm walking in the door with a 1950 Superman, right about the time my dad would have been 9, so maybe he even read this book. But he was really interested in the book, but especially interested that I had at the time converted books that had just come out that cost me 50 cents each. For this really nice looking copy of a 1950s Superman, and from that point on, he took a real interest in my collection and interest in my hobby, and he would ask me questions. And not that it was a big deal that he didn't before, but this was the thing that brought my dad kind of into understanding that it wasn't just this sort of kids thing that I was doing, but there was something to it, you know.
Yeah.
And so when I say that I will never sell this book, I will never sell this book. Like if there were a fire in my house and we actually got a fire evacuation notice on my phone this week. And so I actually had to contemplate that.
Yeah.
And if I could only pick one book, now I know I have this book. What's the value of this book? Maybe $300, $400, maybe somewhere in that range, right?
Yeah.
I've got books worth more for sure, but sentimentally, this is the book I would get if I could only get one book, because I know I could get the other books again if I wanted, and I could replace this book, but it couldn't be this book, you know?
Yeah.
So it means a lot to me. I actually thought it would come back a higher grade than a 6.0.
Yeah.
But I'll take the white pages though, man.
Yeah, seriously.
You know, white pages for a book like that. And I think, look at that, you guys. That's pretty sweet, right?
Yeah, it's sharp.
That's sharp. I'm not really sure why. I got a beef with CGC about this one, but nothing could take my joy away from having it. But I mean, there's just very little, you know, even when I look at the grader notes, they don't really say much. You know, I mean, it has something like, you know, look like somebody had it sitting on a coffee table and then took out a piece of paper and wrote something. And so you can, like, a little indentation inside, you know, little things like that, but there's no tears. There's no color breaking. There are no creases. Barely, I don't think any ticks on the spine. I don't know what's wrong with it.
I really cleaned this thing up. I remember what it looked
And
like
you
before.
pressed it.
And
cleaned
I
it.
erased it too.
Yeah.
Because this is like, these Golden Age, they like, it was mostly just like a white cover or like a yellow cover, and then they would like print on it. Unlike, you know, a lot of the Silver Age stuff, which is like there's a lot of like colors going on.
Yeah.
But with the Golden Age, most of the time it's like a monotone color on the back, and then they print on top of that.
Yeah.
So it's like a cover like this, and when it gets dirt, the dirt gets everywhere.
Yeah. Look at the colors on that. I mean, it's so
sharp.
clean. I love this book.
Yeah.
And you know, my parents are still with me, and my dad still, you know, talks about the collection, and I've been back into it. So I've been talking to him about it a bit, and he doesn't remember any of the specific comics I had because, you know, why would he? But except for this one, he says, "You still have that Superman?" I'm like, "Yes, I do."
Wow.
So anyway,
Have you sent him the podcast yet?
Yeah, I think, you know what? That's a really good question. I've told him about it, but I don't think I've actually said, here's the podcast. So
Send him this one.
So I'm going to send this one, Dad. Dad, I'm bringing the show and tell for you. This book means a lot to me because it meant something to you when I brought it home. So shout out my dad.
The goat.
Yep, the goat for sure.
Sweet.
All right, so you're going to put yours up there. So I'll set this here for now. Well, we're still
Maybe we could find a way to. Maybe you can. Will it lean up against your mic?
It'll be just
Might.
tonight. Today's the day that I'm going to mess this book up. I'm going to draw. Yeah, that works.
There you go.
If it slides, it's not going to do anything.
Oh,
That's why you put them in slabs.
there you go. Nice. Cool. So thanks for sharing that. That's a cool story. I didn't know that about that book.
Yeah.
In particular.
Well, I didn't want to tell you that when you were cleaning it and pressing it. When I'm putting pressure on you, I would have loved it either way.
Oh, I ripped the cover in half.
Sorry, dude. Okay, I'll replace it.
All my cats peed on it. I don't know. All of them did. I don't know.
I left it alone with the cats.
So my show and tell is sentimental, but like the opposite of sentimental.
Oh, interesting.
So
okay.
like it has like negative emotion tied to it. So my first time at WonderCon, I bought a copy of ASM 50. And if you can go, I'll watch my first time at WonderCon, and you can watch me negotiating at WonderCon. You can watch me negotiating this book. And it was sold to me as like a 5560. To my eye, it looked like a 5560. It was raw. And I wasn't like just starting to to clean and press, but I was still definitely like early on.
Yeah.
And so there was things that I had to learn along the way, and this is one of them. So I buy the book. I'm really happy about it. I bring it home. and I'm getting ready to clean and press it, and I have it out, and I don't do like crazy, like I don't do humidity.
Right.
I don't do like whitening. Like I don't do really any of that stuff. I just do your natural pressing and then eraser. And I'm going through and I'm erasing, and I'm literally almost done. I'm going through the back cover. Most of it's done. And if you've done this, you know the corners can be scary. And so I don't know if I just got like caught up in the moment that I like finally owned this book and I was happy and I wasn't thinking, like I was just like happy that I like had this book and I was about to ship it out to CGC. And as I get to the bottom, if it's the back cover, the bottom right, I'm erasing and then I rip. And it was about like, I don't know, maybe 3/4 inch. And I stop, I look at it, I put the eraser on the counter, and then I walk out. I literally just left my house. Because my reaction in those types of situations is to make things worse. Yeah. And so I would have just like ripped, like torn the book. I would have been infuriated.
Yeah.
So I walked out, cooled off. I came back inside, looked at it, took a deep breath, finished, put it in the press. Got it back, came back a 4.0, which was really unfortunate. But I think now looking at the book and knowing what I know about grading and CGC and all that stuff, I think without the tear, I think it would have had a shot at a 5, maybe a 5.5. But I think that the tear really brought it down. So that night I'm laying in bed and I'm just frustrated.
Yeah.
I'm just really frustrated. And
how'd you even sleep that night, you know?
Yeah. Well, this helped. This is where my show and tell comes in, is I had an impulse buy. And so this was my impulse buy.
Oh yeah, nice. Wow.
I bought it raw. But I was just like, I needed therapy and I needed shopping therapy. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy something. And the funny thing about this is I look at it and yeah, it's a 5.5 for sure. I, for some reason, thought that this was going to get higher. I don't know if the rage was like blinding me. I was like, yeah, this is going to get like a 6.5,
it's
7.
An 8.5.
Like, and then it came back a 5.5 and I was like, why did I send this in to get graded? Like, this is not a book worth grading. So there's just so many negative things connected to this cover. Yeah.
Hey man, it's an early Silver Age Catwoman appearance. I think it's like her 3rd.
Yeah. So
it's something.
Yeah. I mean, I love this cover. I think it's great. I love these Silver Age Batgirl covers. Got Catwoman on like a rare green suit.
Yeah, that's odd, right? Not my favorite, but it is rare to see.
For any of our audio listeners, this is Batman 197, and I have it graded at CGC 5.5. So, yeah.
What's the page quality on that?
Off-white to white.
Yeah. I love the purple. I mean, I love.
Yeah, the purple is really cool.
DC was not playing around in the Silver Age. They were dumping ink on their covers. I've said it before, because that's expensive. That's expensive to print all that ink.
Yeah. So,
well,
there it is.
Look, we are emotional creatures, right? That's how we were made. We were made to be emotional, and that's one of the things that makes us unique in the animal kingdom, right? We're more than animals. We have we have souls, and we're emotional. And you know, I think from emotion we derive the best things in life. Once in a while, the emotion will bring out the worst in us. And I'm not saying this brought out the worst in you or anything, but
it could have.
But it could have, but you mastered it. And if that was the worst of it, that you made an impulse buy on a book that you doubled down and then graded it and it came back a 5.5, you still have a great story to tell.
Yeah.
It turned into a really fun show and tell, and you do have the book.
I do have the book. Yep.
So
that's that.
And you still have the ASM 50 too. I'm assuming.
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
So. Getting upgraded soon. If you guys remember, I bought a collection, a lot of which is what you're seeing on the wall. If you missed last episode and you're just like, wait, where the heck are you guys? Audio listeners, you would have no clue where we are, but we are in a different location. But I recently decided to take a step into dealing. So I rented an office space, and soon enough, I'll be dealing. This last week, I've just spent a lot of time getting these books double boarded and into Mylars. Because I've decided that's how I'm going to move books. Is it's going to be double boarded in a Mylar.
You know, I love that you're doing that. I not knocking any sellers, but there's just something really thoughtful, and because it is an added expense. Yeah. But from a customer service side, when I buy a book from anywhere that's mailed to me and it comes in a Mylar, I appreciate that. I'm not even saying that I would do that. Yeah, you know, because it costs about $1 a bag unless you buy it in bulk, and then you're putting 2 boards in. But I appreciate that. Yeah. For no other reason, I don't have to take it out and put it in a new thing. It's just like, all right, awesome. Yeah. You know, put it in my collection. So shout out.
the double board, except for the square bound. The square bound is a single board, but the purpose is to essentially fill the Mylar so that it holds and it has a lesser chance of bending. And double boarding, when it sits in your short box, it prevents the spine roll and the spine curve from happening. So, and also like when I buy books, this is just like one of those like subconscious like marketing things. Is like if you hand me the same book, roughly the same grade, like, you know, it could be like a 5.5, could be a 6.5, whatever. If you like hand it to me and one's just in a polypropylene single board, with like where it starts to like wrinkle, or you hand me a copy in a double boarded Mylar, just the feeling that it feels strong, that the book is secure, like I'm way more likely to buy that book. So it's even just like oh man, like you receive it and you feel like you just feel good about it, like you feel confident,
like because now you're entering into the world of a reseller, not retailer, because your prices are better than retail, but reseller. So, you know, there's lots of ways I've seen sellers thank their customers. You know, sometimes they put an extra book in there, or so, you know, a little note. I appreciate that. Hey, thanks a lot. You know, or here's my card. You know, this is a real nice way to say thank you. Yeah. Just to say, you don't have to say anything. It's just if you're selling it to a collector, which you are, that. To quote someone we all know and love, "Nuff said." Like just put it in that, you send it. You don't really need to say like, but it's saying, "Hey, I really appreciate your business. Yeah. I respect that you're a collector, and that's why you're one of my customers. I'm gonna do this thing because, like you've said before, you want to respect that part of the hobby. Yeah. So I love that. I think that's great. It's great. Should be your calling card. Yeah, for sure.
So all of these books on the wall have been graded and double boarded and bagged. I haven't priced anything yet, but if you see anything on this wall, if you're watching and you're like, hey,
get the jump on that,
then just DM me on Instagram and I can let you know. I have a lot more. I'm only probably through a third. I probably need to speed it up this week, and I probably need to get through all of it this week. But so that's why we're here. That sounds like this last week's episode.
That sounds like me this weekend when I was staring at a actual literal pile of student writing to read, because in this I got tired of doing it all online, so I said, hey, you guys, can you give me hard copies? It's easier for me I like to dig in, but I was kind of like that. I almost had the same conversation with myself. I need to pick it up. I need to get through all of this weekend, and I just sat there head down. I've lost track of how much coffee I've had this week. I might hit the wall, and halfway through the podcast, and my head's just gonna go like that. I'm not really sure, but I will say this: the thing that tipped Joshua over the edge to finally decide it's time for me to start selling my books is when he acquired Dazzler issue number 1.
When I got it for free 2 years ago.
That was the tipping point. He said, "Well, I can't hold on to this thing. That's it." Tell that story. That was so much fun. It was at a mall, you guys. Mall.
There's a shop that used to be at our mall. That they still exist, but they're not in our town anymore, because malls are dying. At least in California, they are.
Hey, Deb and I went to the mall. this weekend.
Oh, really?
It was the only time I actually got out
Yeah.
into the out
And it
from
was
under my
dead.
papers, and I said, that was fun. Then we had some food and we left. There wasn't much to do.
Yeah, no, not at all. So yeah, there was like this. It's like a comic shop and just like a whole bunch of like random vintage collectibles, like Beanie Babies, stuff like that.
It's a pretty cool store. I liked it.
You could find really good deals in there too, because their stuff wasn't always fully updated. They would go through their own back issues and like pull stuff for claim sales, but they didn't catch everything. So you could find good stuff. So anyways, it was like during Christmas time. It was after Thanksgiving, I think, before Christmas.
Yeah.
They were doing a live auction. So he just got like the best of his best, which it wasn't honestly like anything crazy.
No.
Like, I'm trying to think of the best book. I got a Strange Academy 1 that night, a raw one, and then...
Yeah, it wasn't a lot. I mean, it was, look, I think that was the first time that I actually started spending money on comics again.
Yeah.
I mean, where it really kind of, I just sort of pulled the trigger, because up until that point, I still was kind of like, well, I don't know, that kind of thing. And then we went to it, and it just was a fun thing to do. It's like, if the mall's closed, everybody's gone, but he's going to have a store open, and you could be there. And it was just this interesting.
It was very endearing.
It was.
It was endearing because, like I said, the books weren't crazy. Like, probably what you're seeing on this wall is probably better than 95 to 98% of the things he showed.
Sure, yeah.
But it was just like cool that he was just like, hey, like we're gonna provide like some pizza, some snacks.
There was like a bottle of Jack Daniels,
just
sitting on the table with people. It was, I'd never really seen anything like it,
Yeah, and it was just like, hey, we're just gonna do it. Like it was a live auction. Like we were like actually like bidding, and it was totally fun.
Yeah, how many people do you think were in there? Maybe 20, 15 to 20, maybe of us.
Yeah,
somewhere around there.
Yeah,
I just remember the one girl sitting in the front. If anything came up that was Vampirella, she was buying it.
She bought it. Yeah,
she just. I mean, it was. I mean, good on her. She knew what she was after, but it was just funny, I
mean, even though that was 2022, she still might have made a profit today, because Vampirella books are like pushing again. So, anyways, so the actual auction ends. I think the two things that I got from the actual auction was that raw Strange Academy 1, and then the Deadpool, what is it? It's like Wolverine 50 something with Deadpool with the katanas. Yeah. Those are like the two things that I got from the collection. Do you remember what you got?
I only remember one thing that I got. It was the first. It might have been the first and only, but it was not a good purchase. It was like maybe $40, and I got it was the full set of Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire. The adaptation.
Oh, yeah.
I really don't know why I bought it. It was just one of those things I thought, well, that's kind of cool, and I bought it. And little did I know, here I'd be like 2 years later, full speed ahead with buying everything that that I get my hands on. It feels like sometimes, but I still do have those books. I'm never going to be able to move them, because who's going to buy them from me? Well, I know what I can do. I can have an auction, and I can serve alcohol like he did, and maybe somebody else will go.
So anyway, so the live auction ended, and he was like, "Hey, go through the store, like 50% off, like back bins or something like that." And then he walks out. He like went to the back, like little storage, and then he walks out. He has a stack of books in his hands, and he just starts handing them to everybody. And so everybody that was there that night got a Dazzler 1 near mint condition.
Yeah.
And probably he still had more left over after that.
It was a surreal moment for me, and I'll tell you why. Because when that book came out, I think 1980 or 1981, and so that was exactly when I started collecting. So for the longest time, that was one of the key books in my collection, because it was one of my only issue number ones. And me and my friend Chris had real high hopes for this character, and I had 4 copies of Dazzler 1. And I don't even know how I got them, because you only were going to be able to get them there were no newsstand issues of that. Yeah. But here it was about 40 years later, and I've been carrying those 4 copies along with the rest of my collection everywhere I've ever gone in my life. Kept them in bags, updated the bags, went from polypropylene to Mylars or whatever.
Yeah.
Kept them in great condition, and my reward for that is at this at this sort of scuffed auction. He's like, "Does anybody want these Dazzler ones?"
He just starts handing them out.
So I'm like, "Well,
like
I guess that wasn't a good. That didn't work out for me. Just buying those 4 copies. I held them for 40 years, and the guy can't even give them away.
Yeah.
They got a little hot for a little while, thanks to Taylor Swift. And,
Yeah. Did you sell any or no?
Thanks for asking. No, I didn't. I gambled and lost. I rolled the dice on that one and lost. I didn't sell any of my Dazzler ones, and I didn't sell my X-Men 130, hoping for the big score, which didn't happen. So now, another 40 years, I'm going to carry them around. And then you can have them.
They've held a little bit. They're not like worth 20 anymore, but I still think you can get like 10 to 15 for them.
Well, now it's just nostalgia. Like, you know, and I did go through, by the way, in case anybody's wondering, and hey, maybe one of those copies is the one that has the weird coloring on one of the pages on the inside. None of them.
None of them?
Nope. Not. I mean, you would think one, like for my troubles.
Brutal.
Yeah. That's rough.
Unlucky.
That's all right.
It's just how it is sometimes.
That's the way it goes. You win some, you lose some.
True. All right, news. Since you didn't watch the trailer, I'll talk about the trailer first.
He sent me a text. You sent me a text. We're totally different. We're different generations, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about our podcast. What's one of the different things about our generations? When people send me things on my phone, I'm like, yeah, I can't see that. I'll get around to looking at that on my computer where I can actually see it. I have this brand new iPhone that I use to send texts. That's it. So people send me like these things on my phone. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that. But I in this case, I just didn't see it. I'm not sure why, but I want to watch it.
We'll blame
now.
grading.
Yeah, no, but I was probably watching a Penguin is what I was doing.
No, it was way before that.
Oh, really?
It was like middle of the afternoon.
Yeah, I was grading.
Yeah.
I was definitely grading.
So yeah, the trailer's good. I mean, just as good as the other ones. The thing that's interesting about it though is they test screened this movie and it tested horribly. Like so bad that they're currently doing reshoots right now.
Ouch.
And the movie comes out in February. Like that's how bad the test screen. But the trailers are amazing. Like I'm so confused. Is how the trailers look so good. And obviously I haven't seen anything yet, so I don't know. Maybe the test screeners, it was a bad batch. Who's to say? But the word on the street is that it test screened really poorly. I think they had 2 versions. One tested really, really badly, and the other tested okay. But the trailers look like it could just revive.
So they've got good footage. They had some good scenes.
Yeah.
So it's got to be story stuff.
So hopefully it's easily fixable with some of these reshoots. But yeah, Giancarlo Esposito said that he was going back to do reshoots and he was really excited to get back into the costume and stuff. So
there's a couple of first appearances in Marvel 2-in-1 that are tied to that movie, Esposito's character. It's like Triton or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, he said he was going back to do some reshoots and
okay. Well, so what do you think about Cap 117 first
this trailer had
Falcon
like the coolest Captain America, Sam Wilson as Captain America sequences ever. Like I'm so excited to see this dude in action. Like he looked so cool. He's got like this like all white helmet, and his wings. I'm assuming they're vibranium because he was just like cutting through stuff.
Nice.
And it just like the things he was able to do with it. Like he like used it to like cover himself and then like go through like something that was exploding. It just looked really cool. And then we got a full look at
Red Hulk.
Red Hulk, yeah.
How did he look?
Good, yeah.
Okay.
Looked like Harrison Ford.
That book confounds me. First appearance of Red Hulk, but not really the first appearance of Red Hulk. But it will always, he's on the cover, but he's not in the book.
Yeah. You know what else I learned very similar to that? Is Swamp Thing 1 is not the second appearance of Swamp Thing. It's Swamp Thing 2.
What?
Yeah. So
hey, I thought you were going to say that it's a first appearance of a different Swamp Thing than in House of Secrets 92, but you're telling me something else now that I'm not aware of. What is this?
So House of Secrets 92, first appearance of Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
And then they start the solo series, Swamp Thing 1, in which he's on the cover.
Yeah.
He's not in the story. He makes the second appearance, unless it's a different Swamp Thing. I don't know. You kind of just threw a curve at me. Oh. If there's like is there another Swamp Thing that I didn't know about?
Well, no, the Swamp Thing in House of Secrets 92 is Swamp Thing, obviously, but the man that becomes Swamp Thing is different than the man who portrays Swamp Thing in Swamp Thing 1. Alec Holland, I think, is the name in Swamp Thing 1. And in House of Secrets 92, it's somebody else.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if that matters. But that's really interesting. Well, my Swamp Thing 1 is slabbed. So if anybody's got an unslabbed Swamp Thing, check it out, open it, and tell us in the comments, because I'd like to know now. I'm very curious.
Yeah, that's wild. So behind you, there's some House of Secrets. There's a House of Secrets 82, House of Secrets 87. So I from this collection, I got a solid run of the House of Secrets, not the whole run, but like pretty much that 15-cent run. And I got up to 90 something. And so 92 was in there. And as I was like bagging and boarding, I was like, oh, I wonder what the second appearance of Swamp Thing is. I was like, it's either Swamp Thing 1 or is it going to be like in another House of Secrets? So I look it up. It's not House of Secrets. I was like, oh, bummer, because I got this whole run, whatever. And I'm like, okay, second appearance of Swamp Thing. And it said Swamp Thing 2. And I was like, what?
How can that be,
So then I
right?
opened the Key Collector app.
Yeah.
And it even says Swamp Thing 2 is the second appearance of Swamp Thing. But not Swamp Thing 1. So he's not in the story for whatever reason.
But he's on the cover. So
yeah, but he's on the cover.
And we're not going to find consistency of logic here. We right? Because if that's true, then what are we talking about with Red Hulk and all that stuff, right? That's bizarre.
Yeah.
I never knew that, and I've owned that book.
So bizarre, yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And Swamp Thing 1 is always going to be worth more than Swamp Thing 2.
Get your hands on until our podcast goes viral. Get your hands on Swamp Thing 2 while you still have a chance.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was befuddled.
Yeah, that's a great word. That is very befuddling.
It was. I sat at the desk right there, and I was just like, I like had it up on the computer and I had it up on my phone. Like I was just trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, if I just read the story, it would make sense of it quickly.
There's no rhyme or reason. Honestly, what do we consider a first appearance? The ads that have Wolverine.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, that's the first time Wolverine appears in a comic book.
Yeah.
But we don't. It's collectible, but it's certainly nothing close to
right.
And then getting into Wolverine, that whole thing is talk about a conundrum, right?
Yeah.
Even though the hobby has decided long ago. But what about like Werewolf by Night, or I'm sorry, Moon Knight in Werewolf by Night? First appearance of Moon Knight. Everybody knows Werewolf 32, right? Uh-huh. But in Werewolf 31, at the very end, it says next issue Moon Knight. Now Moon Knight doesn't appear, but it just says next issue Moon Knight. Does that count for anything? It should.
Interesting.
And Moon Knight's mentioned.
Yeah. And
if you really want to talk about it, what about, and I know you just recently acquired this book, Fantastic Four issue 47. In issue 47, it either says Galactus or the Silver Surfer. One of the two is mentioned at the end of issue 47 in that little preview for the next issue.
Yeah. Huh.
And then this is the one that really blow your mind. Fantastic Four issue number 5. Which you now own, right? Yeah. If you look at issue 5, in issue 5, Johnny Storm is reading Hulk issue 1.
Oh, right.
And it's referenced.
Yeah.
And we also know that FF5 has the advertisement for Hulk 1.
Right.
So presumably it came out before Hulk 1. So couldn't you argue that the first appearance of the Hulk is FF5?
Yeah.
Think about that. FF5 is FF5. It's just like the fifth appearance of Fantastic Four. It's the first appearance of Dr. Doom. And if you really want to get down to it, it's actually the first appearance of the Hulk.
Yeah. Like even out, it's Hulk in story.
In story, not and an advertisement, but it's actually Hulk in story. I mean, I don't know.
I can see the argument against the ad for sure, because it's like, it's not part of the story. It's not canonizing anything. It's just there to promote next month or next week's issue, whatever. But in story,
it's in story.
Is a totally different thing.
I only found out about that because I was reading the Omnibus a few years ago. Yeah, and I looked at that, and it's the first time I'd ever read FF5, and I just
I actually have heard that. I forgot about it until you just mentioned it, but yeah, I had heard that before.
I mean, I guess the hobby has spoken. Anybody who owns Hulk 1 is going to fight that tooth and nail. But I think there's a case to be made.
Yeah, I think the hobby, I think that generally the hobby doesn't care. I think the hobby is always going to prefer. The hobby is just going to make what they want to be true.
Right.
Like Hulk 180 is the first appearance. There's no other way around it.
Right.
But the cover is better. It's more desirable. So the hobby as a whole has just like thrown it all in there.
Yeah.
So yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. It's just,
I don't think
these are fun things to talk
it'll
about.
never be consistent and that's why some characters like first appearances that also have first cover appearances will always dominate.
Yeah.
First appearances that don't have first cover appearance. Like first Doctor Strange, that book
problematic.
That book is worth something. But can you imagine how much that book would be worth if Doctor Strange was on the cover?
What? Yeah, I mean, if it was one of these covers, that you have right here behind you, it'd be insane.
Yeah.
That's true. And if it's a good cover,
yeah, that book is not talked about all that much. Like as far as like Silver Age Grails and just, I mean, Doctor Strange is one of the like key pieces in the whole Marvel universe, both comics and movies.
I doubt Strange Tales was getting the print run that Fantastic Four 1 or Spider-Man 1 or Amazing Fantasy 15. So yeah, it's true. It's just not that desirable of a cover. So
yeah, so that's why Hulk 181. Like that's why the hobby chose 181 over 180.
Yeah,
it's because it's just a better cover.
But then what the bummer is about that is I recognize that and I'm like, well, okay, fine, but meanwhile Hulk 180 is really cheap, so I'm going to pick one up, and I bought a Hulk 180 in probably like 6.0 condition for like $35, And then I sold it maybe 3 years later for $75. And then all of a sudden the hobby's like, well, let's have it be worth a lot. Because, I'm like, you guys, make up your mind.
Yeah.
You're driving me nuts.
Whatever the market feels. I mean, it's similar to the stock market in some ways. Mm-hmm. Just like if people just don't want to carry X stock anymore and just people start dumping it, then other people start dumping it and they don't know why they're dumping it, but it just...
Hey, man, it was a good week for the stock market, speaking of.
Yeah, it is.
A real good week.
Yeah.
So,
Booming.
that's nice. Let's go.
All right, second piece of news. This is a rumor-ish, and then it got debunked by James Gunn. But the rumor came out earlier this week that Warner Brothers was preparing for a Joker series similar to the Penguin that would come out after the Batman 2, and it would be the bridge between the Batman 2 and the Batman 3, which would then lead into Joker being the main villain of Batman 3. Barry Keoghan played Joker in the Batman, if you remember.
Yeah.
And so the internet went crazy. Internet also went like retarded Joker stories. Totally understandable. And then Mark Hamill. Well, he's one of the most iconic Jokers.
Sure.
And James Gunn, I don't remember on what platform, but he said there is absolutely no truth to that. And the only thing that I'm like, so I know he's head of like Warner Brothers, or not Warner Brothers Studios, but like DC stuff. I know he like runs that all, but obviously I don't work for Warner Brothers. I don't have like a friend that works there who's giving me inside info, but the Batman universe, the Pattinson universe existed before he got there. And I'm sure there was like layouts of like what they were going to do. And obviously he's going to be sitting in the rooms, in the conference rooms when these things are being like talked about, like, or pitched or, confirmed or denied. So obviously he's going to know a lot more than I do. He's he's the captain of the ship.
Yeah.
Okay. But I'm just like, doesn't this exist like slightly outside of like it's like a Venn diagram, right? A little bit like he owns like one, or he's running like one part of the DC universe.
He's got his circle,
and then he's like kind of operating and saying, hey, we're gonna make this movie, we're gonna make this movie, we're gonna make that movie. But it seems like these Elseworld DC movies, like the Joker, the Batman, they were there before he was there,
right?
And a lot of these things, they don't just like they don't just come out the day that it was announced, and it was like it wasn't announced it wasn't like confirmed that morning in a conference room, and then like an hour later it hits the internet. Like these things take a long time. So I don't know. I'm just like sometimes he like confirms or denies things, and I'm like, time will tell.
Well, we let me check my watch. I think we lasted maybe 30 minutes before you said Pattinson's name.
Hey, it's what the news said.
I knew it was coming anyway because we're here to talk about Penguin and the Batman universe. I know it's coming, but I was wondering how long. But we got there.
So got the Batman shirt.
Let's go. Well, I wear black, so that's something, right?
Yeah, so I don't know. I feel like we could hold out a little bit because the Penguin is an incredible success so far.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to get bad reviews, and we'll get into our reactions and reviews and stuff. Well loved. I mean, this thing was getting praised week after week after week. So whether it be a Joker spinoff, maybe a Catwoman spinoff, I feel like we're gonna get more. We're gonna get more on the TV side.
There's a reason that the table it has a Catwoman paraphernalia on it because having just come off, and we'll get to the Penguin, but having just come off the last episode of the Penguin, I was thrilled to hear Selena Kyle's name come up.
Spoilers, by the way.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean anything.
Sure, it doesn't because she's already
doesn't
existing.
reveal anything.
But if you,
I won't say anything else.
Okay, so that's the news. I would still say hold out hope on that Joker show a little bit. Not that I'm doubting literally James Gunn's position in the DC world. I can't. I mean, it is what it is for like he's in that position. But I feel like if not Joker, something else.
I think it's time for James Gunn to reveal the big thing, which is that he's gonna go full send TV show and like trilogy on Eclipso.
Anyways, so let's get into the Penguin finale. We just finished watching it like about an hour ago.
Have some more coffee, Bob.
No, I'm not going to entertain your Eclipso. Nobody cares. If you care, let them know you care. I don't.
Someday you will.
I know. I am looking for the book, but I'm not going to.
I'll break that sleeper out eventually, and you'll all thank me.
True. Next week we'll bring back a head scratcher and a sleeper. Okay. So, anyways, the Penguin. So, finale. 9 weeks, I think. Right? That was episode 9.
Yeah. Was it 9 or 8?
8 or 9 something.
I think it was 8.
Incredible. Mm-hmm. And I have one hot take that I'll say later at the right time, but I have to soften you guys up to this take. So when we get there,
what's the definition of a hot take? Does a hot take mean that it's got to be controversial? Is that really how you would? That's what I think it means, but or is it just something people maybe hadn't thought of? Or
no, I don't think it would be that. I think it would be something that's like controversial, going against the grain, something that people don't want to touch because it's too hot.
Got it.
But you're like, hey, I'm wearing this, so
okay.
Interesting. Yeah. So the episode, I mean, I don't really know. I feel like you kind of just gotta like, or at least talking about it, you kind of just have to fast forward to because the whole like first third of the show is kind of like just you're inside the manipulated mind of his mom.
Yeah.
And interesting stuff, but not much to talk about, or worth talking about at least on this podcast. But you get to Monroe's, which is this dancing jazz club that young Oz and his mom went to after his brothers died, and we saw one perspective of it last week, and it was young Oz, like happy, dancing with his mom. Seemed like everything was good, and from his perspective, it seemed like the whole brothers thing, him killing his brothers, that was behind him, and now it was just gonna be him and his mom moving forward. And he saw that as like my mom's like, she's taking me out, like we're gonna go dancing, like she's now over it too, like we can now move on together. And then this episode, it's a whole twist.
Yep.
And the twist is that that gangster that they had picked up the money from, him and young Oz and his brothers, was talking to his mom and basically was like, well, there's a couple ways we can handle this. One is like I kind of adopt him into the mob, and we make him one of us. And he even like compliments young Oz. He's like, he's got potential.
Mm-hmm. And the impetus for this is that Oz's mom essentially says, "I've got the devil living in my house.
Yeah,
he's not redeemable. He's a monster."
Yeah, because she learned that Oz had essentially killed his brothers. So they're trying to figure out what this mobster named Rex, and yeah, so he says like, yeah, I can like bring him into the fold. Then he kind of like is like, but there's kind of a problem. Is like guys who are greedy, they don't really make it. He's like, it's guys who don't have dads, and they're like looking to like fill that part in their life. He's like, and that's where I come in. And he's like, now Oz doesn't have a dad, but he has you. And then he offers his second, which is I can take Oz out for you. And that was the plan of the night. Seems that's what his mom had agreed to. Yep. But then sitting in the restaurant in the jazz club, Oz begins to promise his mom a better life, and incredible actor, that kid.
Yeah.
Like so good. Anyways, yeah, starts to promise his mom a better life, and I think she just starts to have empathy for her son. Like, I think, as you pointed out, she had seen him as the devil before, and he murdered my other two boys. But then in a moment, you're out on the night, there's music playing, which definitely contributes to the psychology of that entire situation.
Yep.
And just hearing your son promise you a better life, I think she definitely began to have empathy for her son.
I wonder if that's why in the series, that was constantly what Oz would do to break his mom out of her spells. When she would get angry or depressed, maybe because as a boy that was a turning point. Because he didn't know at the time, but she wanted him dead.
Yeah.
And then they had this moment, and he's attributing it to the music and this. They both saw that moment from completely different perspectives.
Yeah.
And so he's always thinking, yeah, well, here's the music, Ma, and they dance. And yeah, it was just so, the story we're telling was so tight,
Yeah.
It was just tight. Everything had a purpose, Anyway,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was the inception for them. And for Oz, it was more like this music, this dancing, it was the beginning of my promise to you. And then for her, I mean, I guess there's a few ways that you could see it from her perspective. Maybe like it was a moment of redemption, or like a moment where she, like, for the rest of her life, it was like a moment of like guilt, and like for the rest of her life, after that moment, she has to live with the fact that I almost got my son killed. Like, even if he's this monster who killed my other two kids, like I was almost no better than him and had scheduled for my son to get killed. And so, yeah, a very unique moment. But anyways, you kind of like get pulled out of the moment, which is you're kind of seeing it through the therapy of Julian Rush, which interesting character. There's a lot of speculation on who he can be. Julian Rush is not a character in comics, but he is characteristics and what he does is being pulled from a couple different types of characters of famous Batman villains. Anyways, Oz is there. He's taped up. He's mad. And Sophia's, she, in that moment, she was on top. She had essentially was winning their war. But as the show had shown us all the way up until that point, Oz loves his mom more than anything. and the reason, his purpose in life is to fulfill that promise that he made to his mom. And so I knew because it's obvious, like the second you take his mom as like a hostage or something, you're unlocking a totally different side of that guy.
Yeah.
There's a rage that's going to come out.
Turns feral all the way.
And so after a very interesting back and forth of Sophia basically like, hey, tell your son, hey, you need to tell your mom you did this, because they had more imagery of dancing. They have been dancing around the topic of the fact that Oz had killed the brother. So he never told his mom, and his mom never told him that she knew. And so they'd always dance around it. And so Sophia wanted them to acknowledge it. Never happened. But the mom did snap, was saying, I hated you. I've always hated you.
I know what you did.
Yeah. And Oz breaks out of the chair, and it was still like he denied it. He like rejected the things that his mom said. Like he was like, you're crazy. Like it's that illness. Like you guys are like, this illness is taking over.
His mom stabs him with a broken bottle in the gut. I mean, she's lost it, or accepted, or embracing the reality and the truth. Or I mean, there's a lot thematically going on, but I mean, everything gets crazy at that point. And then Oz just, almost like a Matrix moment where he just suddenly has the strength to knock himself over, break free, and start killing people.
Yeah. And then she has a stroke. Intense situation. She's already got like a dementia, Alzheimer's type thing going on. And then she stabbed Oz, has a stroke. Or first she hallucinates and sees, it kind of looked like dead bodies. The way they had done the makeup, the two boys were dripping. It was the same brothers we saw in the flashback a couple episodes ago. And she saw them, and then everything gets blurry and she falls to the ground. And it was at that moment that Oz like summons the strength to break out of the chair, which duct tape in a wooden chair, that's only going to hold for so long.
Yep. Yeah, that's right. It's not like he's the kingpin, he doesn't have that kind of strength, but it's just it's duct tape in an old chair.
Yeah.
And Oz is a big dude.
Yeah. He breaks out, gets a gun, pew, 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 and they escape. He picks up his mom, throws her on the shoulder while shooting at Sophia the whole time. And Sophia and Julian escape out the back. He escapes out the front, takes his mom to a hospital. That was pretty much the first third of the episode. I thought that just the whole dynamic between him and Sophia, like in that situation, it was just so... their whole dynamic throughout the whole show was this whole, like, they were just constantly, like, flipping, like, positions of power all the way back to, like, driver. Mm-hmm. And this is used in the end. But from the beginning, when he was her driver, and their whole entire life, essentially, their adult life, they've been swapping positions of power. And especially in this show, it just seemed like every episode, the power was going back and forth and back and forth. And so the scene starts with Sophia in power, and then it ends with her not in power, with her being the one who has to escape. And Penguin's the one with carrying his mom, and he's the aggressor in that situation.
The whole series, they mirrored each other. Those two characters. They both of them had so many similarities. They were both at the heart of it all, victims and trapped by their family obligations. Trapped. She obviously trapped to the point of literally being trapped in Arkham by her father, and trapped by her sense of obligation, to the point where even when she gets rid of the whole Falcone family and it's just her, she says, I think about 2 episodes ago, that she hasn't escaped. She tells Rush, like, I'm still here. Like, what am I doing? I'm not happy. I don't want this for myself. And in the end, she tries to give it all away. And the only time I ever see her, except for the flashback scenes, actually look satisfied or happy was when she's in the limousine on her, or actually when she's burning the Falcone mansion to the ground, and then when she's in the car, she looks like she's at peace.
Yeah.
She's actually at peace. She's like, she's good. She doesn't care. She's ready to go give it all away and get free of this thing. And Oz is the same way. He's trapped by his odd and twisted affection for his mom and neediness for his mom, that his mom even says, yeah, he's so needy.
Yeah.
He couldn't get, and that's what causes him to be jealous of his brothers and to not care that they're drowning and the whole, like all that stuff. It's just this inability to escape from the family. I mean, Sophia at the end, jumping to the end, but and she would have rather not been arrested, than she was ready for her other fate.
Yeah.
Anyway, but that I saw that a lot. Like, yeah, these two they deserve each other, in a lot of ways. But and they're both victims. But it's hard to like Oz by the end of this, though.
Yeah,
they made sure, and I'll let you tell what that one. But they made sure that you may feel sorry for Sophia at the end. You may, I think she's more of the hero than the Penguin is. And Penguin is definitely the villain in this thing. They made sure you could not really sympathize with him by the end. Like, he gets what he deserves.
Yeah. We see Vic again. We haven't seen Vic for a couple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Vic is basically pulling up to the explosion site, and he's trying to find Oz. I saw this meme after last week's episode. It's something like Gotham, like a whole block literally blows up, man. Where is Batman? And then somebody posted a picture, and it was like Photoshop, but like Robert Pattinson, like headphones on, listening to the Nirvana album.
He's hanging out with Selena.
No, she gone.
He's pining, listening to Nirvana, pining.
Yeah, he's just in the Batcave, just listening to Nirvana, and the city is literally blowing up.
Yeah, he's taking some time off. He's scruffy. That's hilarious.
So we catch back up with Vic. A lot more of a confident Vic this time around.
Yeah.
He's looking for Oz, can't find him. Pretty much everyone's like, he's dead. And Vic's like, he's not, like, that's not how Oz is. Like, Oz doesn't die like that.
No.
He doesn't just go down. So he ends up, we find out later that he ends up going and finding the gangs to go help him dig through the rubble to find Oz. And they're the ones who tell him, like, he's gone, like, just, like, give up. And he gives this, like, really empowering speech about, like, power and not like letting your brother go, not letting him down, like, and having a spine in that sense.
We're never going to get ahead. We're just going to be no name cannon fodder unless we, these people that you're dying for, they don't care about you. Stand up, and this is our chance to take the city. All that kind of stuff.
And they don't want to hear it. And there's one guy who's kind of like listening the whole time, and everyone else is just kind of like rolling their eyes. And they leave, and that's when he calls them all cowards. They turn around, and they start drawing their weapons. They're like ready to put them away. But then this one guy, the guy who was actually listening, saves Vic in that moment, and he punches him in the gut, and he pretty much tells him, I don't remember exactly what he told him, but he pretty much was like, hey, like, realize when and when not to.
Yeah.
This is like a moment when
keep your head down, kid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then he walks away, and I think Vic caught onto that. Like, I think the punch, I mean, you take a punch at any time and it shakes you a little bit.
Yep.
So the punch definitely like shook Vic out of like his emotional distress that he was having in the moment. And I think he heard what, I think his name was Link, or
I think that's right.
Yeah. He heard what he was actually telling him. And so he just kind of like settles back, and they leave. He ends up finding Oz, or Oz calls him, and they meet up at the hospital. We learn in that his mom has a stroke, that she's in a vegetative state, and Oz isn't happy.
He doesn't get the thing that he's been working for his whole life. It's not to even. I don't think it's to keep a promise. It's just to hear his mom say, "I'm proud of you."
Yeah.
Which he was never going to get it, because what he didn't know is his mom hated him.
Yeah.
Hated and loved him. I think both.
And that's why he's begging. He said, "Just tell me one time. Just tell me one time you're proud of me." And that's what he was living for.
I mean, there was a great moment where Oz says to Sophia, right before we think he's going to kill her, he says, "You're never going to have peace.
Yeah.
You're going to go to hell." And she says, "I'll save you a seat."
Yeah.
And there's just kind of a acknowledgement from Oz that, yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
And then when the show ends, they're both in hell.
Yeah.
Like they're alive, but Oz doesn't get what he wants, and he's got to take some pretty bizarre steps to try to pretend that he's getting what he wants. And Sophia's back at Arkham, so and literally, like that's Gotham's version of hell, would be Arkham. And I mean, again, when I say that the show was tight, the writing was tight, like it all was sewn up. Like everything that was forecasted paid off. Nothing happened in the end that wasn't earned. And even the parts of the last third of the show that were hard to watch, like you're wishing it could be different, you knew it had to go that way.
Yeah.
You knew it. You're like, I'm not surprised this is happening right now. I hate that it's happening right now. I want this to somehow get redeemed, but it as a storyteller, recognize it can't. This is actually what has to happen, and it's ideal for the story arc. So yeah, I have to commend the writers and the producers and the director, like sticking to their guns, basically.
Yeah.
They really had a vision for this clearly, and they stuck it out, and it was, I mean, so good.
Yeah. So Oz finds, before they go into that room with Oz's mom, Vic finds Oz in a closet, patching himself up from the stab wound, and Vic gives another speech, pretty much telling Oz, "Hey, like, you can't give up. Like, you got to keep going." And I think Oz was definitely just like he was rattled. He was coming off being stabbed by his mom, hearing his mom telling him that he hates him. That the adrenaline kicked in. He escaped out of Sophia's, from her hands, and he brings his mom to the hospital. She's getting taken care of. And I think now, like, if you've ever had like situations like that, like now everything is like kind of, he's now dealing with it. Like the adrenaline is worn off. He's in the closet. It was a very human moment that he was having. And then Vic gives him this speech. And I think, again, spoilers, at the end, Oz strangles him. And I think he realized during that speech that he had to. Because he saw, I think Oz is just seeing how Vic made him vulnerable because Vic made him weak. Or you can flip that. Vic made him weak because he made him more vulnerable.
Right.
He let Vic into his house. He let Vic meet his mom to take care of his mom. Also, Vic failed to take care of his mom, which that probably didn't help Vic's at the end.
Right.
So, yeah, I think that speech is kind of the way that Oz was looking at him. He even says, like, he's like, you practice that?
Yeah. When they're sitting on the edge of the water at the end there, and all the dust is settled, Penguin's going to get at least the crime empire he wants, if not his approval of his mom. But when Vic tells him, and he staggers over the word, he has to say, like, he's stuttering and he has to try like 3 different times. But what the word's going to be. Like, he's trying to say, you're my, and he couldn't get the word out. And he finally says, family. And when he said that, I'm like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
I thought right then, I wasn't surprised at that point, because everything, it was just, it was consistent with his character. I didn't know that he was necessarily going to strangle him, but I thought that's not, Penguin doesn't see you that way. He can't see you that way.
Yeah.
He's going to, and then he he just strangles him, man. Just
when they started talking near the water, Dara and I both literally said, he has no reason to kill him. He won't. And then as soon as he said family, I was like, then it all like came together that Oz let him in, treated him like a son in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
There was a time where Oz saw Vic dancing with his mom. Even when Oz wasn't there, like he was dancing with his mom, and that's when Sophia grabbed him. And so, and actually, I think there was an episode in there. I'd have to go back and rewatch. This show is definitely worth a rewatch because I'm sure there's so much to pick up on. But I'm pretty sure there was a moment where Oz's mom had talked about Vic in a very like positive, emotional way, like saying how much she liked the kid. And I'm sure like now looking back, Oz hearing that is probably setting him off.
Yeah.
So Oz then goes to the courthouse, kind of gets cleaned up, and he makes a deal with that councilman that he got to turn the power on. Tells him like, he pretty much retells him the entire show, but with him not as the main problem.
Yeah.
As like, this whole time it's been a Sofia Falcone and a Salvatore Moroni thing. She sent the bomb in. That's where Salvatore Moroni he had the biggest drug lab in all of Gotham, and she blew it up, and he was giving him all this information. Basically like a, I scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Yep.
Type of moment.
Make him a hero. He cleaned up Gotham.
Yeah. And for Oz, it's all selfish. It's all about him. Even like the things that he wants from his mom is selfish. Mm-hmm. Like he wants I'm trying to remember how Dara had explained it, but it's not even just like an affection of like a motherly to son like relationship, or like a general like nice like mama's boy who like appreciates his mom and loves his mom.
Right.
It's just like this really twisted, sick relationship that I don't really know where the inception of it comes from. They didn't really tell us too much, but it's just how Oz operates. But he's looking for that affirmation to know that he did it because he values his mom so highly, and everything for him is selfish. And I think even Sophia says that at some point.
Yeah,
that he's just just selfish.
He was really willing to allow his mom's finger to get cut off by a cigar trimmer.
Yeah,
rather than tell her, I am responsible for my brother's deaths. And Sophia even makes that comment. It's like, you're really going to let me take her finger?
Yeah. And the look on her face was so interesting.
It's just like disgust. Like, it's like, you really are a monster. Like you don't even love your mom like you say you do. It really is some twisted, you would rather see her get her finger cut off than for her to see you as you really are.
Yeah.
Like, because you don't want to be seen that way.
Yeah.
Which makes you that way. Like it's so dark. And as Sophia looks like a saint next to him.
Yeah, she really does.
She looks about as sympathetic as a kitten next to him.
Yeah.
And she's not, but she at least has been victimized into it.
Yeah.
Oz created his own victimhood. He did it to himself the whole time, all the way through. One of my theories is that his mom's now a vegetable, and so now he's got to kind of forge a new way. Like, who am I now in the light of that? And what he's not willing to do is be beholden to any family. And he's like, he's strangling Vic, and he's saying, family makes you strong, but it also leaves you weak. Yeah. And I'm not doing that again. So now we're going to get the fullness of, that was the origin moment for the Penguin at that point. Like up until that point, he still had some weird twisted thing with his mom. And I guess at the end he still does, but he's now become just, He hasn't answered anybody. He doesn't try to impress anybody anymore. He just.
I mean, I still think it's all about his mom.
I mean, well, definitely.
The ending.
The ending. I don't want to.
We'll get to that scene.
Yeah, get there. We'll get there. It's the last scene. So.
Let's see. Yeah. So then he leaves the court house, and then we cut to Sophia, who gathers the family. Which, again, back to Oz's statement about the family. I mean, that has been the weakness of like all of these mob families. Like the weak link and the downfall of the Falcone family was Sophia. And family is what made that name weak, is the fact that they tried to like throw her under the rug, make her go away. She didn't go away. She came back. As you remember in the Batman, Riddler killed Falcone, and she killed the rest of the family. She took over, and she tells it was like bottom of the barrel type family that's like left over. Like the Salvatore Moroni's gone. Again, he got his family killed.
Yeah.
The whole thing is about family. Insert Vin Diesel meme. And yeah, Oz is definitely like looking at these mob families and seeing like that they are their own reasons for the downfall. Like I was able to defeat Salvatore Moroni because of his family. Sophia became who she is because of her family.
Yeah. And she was able to kill them because she was family and had access.
Yeah. And so she gathers just kind of what's left of mob culture in Gotham at the house. And she says, go find me Oz. Whoever finds me Oz, whichever family finds me Oz, you can have all of this. You can have the house. You can have the areas, the territory. It's all yours. Just bring me Oz. So that's where the guy who was listening to Vic's words earlier kind of comes into play. And I think he had asked, why would you give this up? And her answer is really interesting. She says, because I can't, which is ironic because she couldn't and hasn't been able to up until that point.
Right. She's ready to be free.
And she still can't because she's saying I can, but she didn't when the family said, just go to Italy. Just get out of here and go to Italy. Just escape it all. She couldn't then. She takes out her family. And she could have left then. She didn't. She had Oz. She couldn't finish the job. And now here she is. She could have just left at that point. Like, you know what? He slipped through. He's slimy, whatever. I'm just going to leave. Forget it.
Look, Italy's nice. It's nice this time of year.
And,
come on.
And she is just a victim of her own family name. Like, she needed that vengeance. And so they go on a hunt for Oz. That dude who had listened to Vic's speech earlier calls Vic and he's like, hey, do you know where Oz is? Vic's like quiet and he's like, you can tell he's kind of like on the defense. And he goes, hey, Sophia's got a hit out for him. And then they kind of, when Oz comes out of the courthouse, goes to the car, Vic's not in there anymore. He's confused. That guy Link shows up and they take Oz in and you're like, oh, okay. What's going to happen here?
Yep.
And so they end up meeting Sophia at her private jet's little hangar and they bring out Oz and looks like it might be a moment where I think they asked, the older guy, Mr. Zhao, says, are you going to drop him into the Atlantic or are you going to do it right here? And I don't remember much of like the conversation, but at some point Link pulls his gun out, shoots Mr. Zhao, and then everybody that was in on it kind of shoots the mob that wasn't in on it. Yeah. And now what you have standing is, and they took out her people. So her driver, her security, Julian Rush wasn't there. And I was like, why isn't he there? Which we find out later. Now you just have Oz and his people, Vic, Link, and a few other who joined their fight, and Sophia. And he tells Sophia, let's go for a drive. And again, the power has switched back to the original point in their relationship where he's driving and she's in the backseat. But This time, instead of her being the one in power, it's him.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one in control. He's now actually driving the whole situation, not being told, take me here, take me there, yada, yada, yada.
Yep.
And we already talked about it a little bit. He takes her to the bay-ish area near the water. They start talking. Tells her he's going to hell, which Arkham is, like you said, hell for Gotham.
Yeah.
For Gotham criminals. But it's like double down, multiply it by a million is hell for her.
Yeah.
Like, she was completely innocent. She was a completely innocent person, even a good person who was going to like stand up against and speak against her family.
Right.
And then they threw her in there, and it created
a monster.
Yeah, it created a monster. The person she is today. And a little bit of it was subtle foreshadow that he wasn't going to kill her, but he told her to turn around. And I thought it was interesting. I didn't know like that he was going to leave and he was going to get caught up. But when he just like kept pushing her to like turn around, I was like, this is unlike him. Like, he's not this gracious. Like,
no.
Like having somebody turn around to eliminate them, like there's a little bit of like mercy in that.
Right.
So when he was like urging her to turn around, I was like, oh, that's weird. But I did not guess that it was going to be
I really thought he was going to shoot her.
Yeah.
It would have made sense if he did, but I'm glad he didn't, because it leaves for more interesting stories in the future. But I thought she was gone.
Yeah. And you can see there's like, it's just like this really beautiful like close up on Sophia. And you can see at the very end, she makes peace. Like,
she's ready.
Yeah, she's ready to go.
She's done.
And what I was saying during that moment was, before like the close up happens, but just when you see it, when he's holding the gun at her, and they're talking, and I'm like, dude, a battering has to come flying. Like, that was how I saw the situation playing out, because I knew she wasn't gonna die. I thought she was too important of a character, and like,
she's such a good actor.
I just knew that there was a future for her in the whole series, like movies included. So I knew she wasn't gonna die, but I just didn't. I should have been able to guess that he literally just went to the councilman and told him like, I can give you her.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I didn't make the connection, but my thought was, when's the battering gonna come in and the gun go flying out of his hand?
Yeah.
And he's and Batman beats up Penguin and takes out Sophia, but
you have to wait.
Yeah.
You have to wait for that moment that you were talking about.
Yeah. And so she makes peace, and it's like a bright shining light, symbolic of like when you're dying you see the light, but it's not that light. It's the light from a helicopter.
Yeah.
And the cops come swarming in, and the story that Oz told the councilman is the story that the city is running with, and Sophia is back in Arkham.
Brutal.
Jump forward a little bit. Julian Rush comes walking into her cell.
Yeah, I thought he left
coat.
Arkham. Yeah.
So it was a whole ploy. Like, I think he was playing her the entire time. I do think he has a strange infatuation with her.
Yeah, he wants her in his control.
Yeah, but I think at no point, I think he was working there the whole time. I don't think.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, because he was. I mean, if he left, he wouldn't be there again.
Yeah,
you know, he's still there in his lab coat or whatever.
Yeah, so he's bringing her mail, and it's like it's the same as usual. And he says, "But you should read this one. It's from somebody named Selena Kyle. She says she's your half sister, and as you guys remember from the Batman, Carmine Falcone. I mean, who knows how many kids he's got out there."
Well, yeah, because we know a little bit of the story. He's, consorting with the prostitutes prior to strangling them or hanging them or whatever he did.
Yeah, the like waitresses at the Iceberg Lounge. I mean, I'm sure most of those guys it was just pick which one. And so,
Yep.
yeah, Carmine, I mean, who knows how many little Falcons are running around out there. But anyways, remember for the Batman, her mom was one of the waitresses, and then Carmine, and that's Selena.
Yep. There you go. Now we have the birth of Catwoman.
And Sophia is actually from the family of the Falcons, so that was with his wife, not like a mistress or anybody. So, she reaches out, and Sophia seems ecstatic.
Yeah, very happy. She's
very
smiling.
happy, yeah.
And I thought that was interesting because, again, back to the theme of family, neither of our point of view characters in this series end up escaping their family in the end. Like Sophia, despite desperately wanting to escape and seeming to find peace with it because she's leaving it all behind. In the end, though, when she's presented with the opportunity with a family member that's reached out to her, she grabs it like a lifeline.
Yeah.
So, what's rhetorical message being told here in this series? Family is inescapable. Family is, you hope for wonderful things from family connections.
Redemptive.
You're often disappointed, sometimes like immensely disappointed. And you hope that that's not true for most people, but it's true for too many. And then, and even despite how badly maybe some people's families treat them, you still, something about the human condition, you want that kind of connection. Even Oz, and I know this is the last thing that you. So again, I'll let you tell it. But even Oz, we know that he's rejecting all family because he kills Vic, and says so as he's killing him. You're the only family I have, Oz. Oh, well, that's the deal, though. I don't want any family, so I'm going to kill you now. And he kills him. Again, the tightness of the show. These two characters, Sophia and Oz, mirroring each other right up to the end. Neither one of them, they both renounce family, but at the end, they both eagerly return to it, go through great lengths to pretend it. And I'll let you tell how it ends for Oz. But with I almost said Selena, with Sophia, she's happy to hear that she's got a family member out there who's reaching out to her.
Yeah.
And me as a Catwoman collector, I'm happy because, my first appearance of Catwoman, my Batman one's going to go up in value. For that. No, but because anything that brings Catwoman's universe to the forefront is good for my collection because I have a lot of cool Catwoman collection storylines and arcs, and I think that character's been largely stereotyped and not really explored. Certainly not in movies and TV. Completely stereotyped in both of those until recently. And I'll talk about this. Let's finish talking about the Penguin before I get into Catwoman at all. So
So Sophia's happy. There's family out there, which is good news because Zoe Kravitz had pretty much said that she hadn't heard about any future for Selena, but that she was always open to come back at any time. She enjoyed doing the first movie, so she'll be back, assumably.
Yeah. Great.
And yeah, honestly, I was expecting to see or to hear about her sooner. Just, you would have thought that amidst all that was happening and all that had happened in the Batman 1, and since this takes place right after, that something would have come out.
Yeah.
Or that like Penguin would have like told her something like would have manipulated and used that against her. Like, oh, he had another daughter. Oh yeah, she was always at the lounge. Like he treated her like a queen and just like twisted truths into a lie. I had expected him to do that at some point, but he never did. And so, yeah. And then he kills Vic on the bay. They both tell really nice stories about family, and Vic tells Oz how much he meant to him, and he says, "Thank you so much for taking me in." And as we know, Vic didn't go to California with his girl because of the power that was promised to him. And we all knew Vic was going to die from the beginning. We just knew.
I know.
We saw it coming. It was inevitable. Did not make it hurt any less when it happened. And it really, up until that point, the last episode, the last two scenes of the movie of the show are crucial because they have almost made him sympathetic, Oz. You kind of get like the whole story with his mom, and his mom hates him, and you're like, like you're a messed up dude, but like nobody like deserves to be like outed by their family, let alone their mom like that. So you start to feel bad.
Right.
Don't feel nearly as bad for him as you do for Sophia the entire show. But they had humanized him enough to where you're like, he wasn't too much of a villain. And this is what was wrong with the Joker, is they humanized him too much. And these last two scenes of the movie are the difference between what makes the Penguin and Penguin story way better than Arthur Fleck and his Joker story. So you think you're sitting on the bay with Oz and Vic, and you think, okay, they're about to come up together. Like I said, when wife and I are watching, and it immediately like cuts to the scene, the first thing that came out of my mouth was, he has no reason to kill him. Like, I was already trying to cope it somehow. But
you knew
Oz is a villain.
To be, yeah.
He's a villain. And I mean, he looked twisted when he was killing him. Mm-hmm. Like, he looked disgusting.
Yeah.
And he was strangling him, and Vic was just crying out. Like, I think he just kept saying, please.
You could hear him say, please, Oz, please.
Man, Vic, you didn't deserve it. You should have went to California, man. He would have never found you.
No.
He's not that big.
He wouldn't have cared.
Yeah.
He even said you could go.
Yeah. That was his out. So now cut to the last scene. So now you hate him at this point because everybody pretty much loves Vic. If you're watching the show, you love Vic. You feel bad for him. Like, you wanted him to get on that bus and to go to California.
It's one of the first things you learn as a storyteller. If there's a character that you want people to like, be sympathetic toward, one of the ways to do it is to give that character some kind of a impediment, because then your heart goes out to him,
Yeah.
Now our Penguin has a impediment. Your heart doesn't go out to him limping around. Who cares, right? But with Vic, the stutterer, it makes you root for him.
Yeah.
So you knew right away we're supposed to like this guy. We're supposed to root for him. And then we're seeing his arc all the way through as he becomes more. He kills somebody, and then he recruits for Oz and all that stuff, and he's growing in confidence and the whole thing.
But you see how his mom or how his family dies. Like, you see like how the Riddler blowing up the wall, how that impacted like on a street level, and like it makes you hate Riddler more. And you're like, okay, like now like this kid lost his family because of Riddler, so you feel bad for him there. And
but you just knew it. You knew it. It had to happen. And but I was, because and of course, so now we hate Penguin. There's nobody. There's nothing sympathetic about him at all at this point.
Yeah. So he kills pretty much like the one guy that's like likable.
Yeah.
And a guy who's just being manipulated the entire show, where you're just like, dude, get on the bus, get out of there, like. You don't know what we know. Like, we know more than you.
His girlfriend knew it. She said it. This guy's bad.
Yeah.
He does not have your best interests.
And that was us, the audience, telling him that and trying to give him the insight. But Vic didn't watch Batman 1, so he didn't know.
Vic, come on.
So then at that moment, it really is just like pitting Oz against the audience, where you're like, okay, we are on opposite sides.
Yeah.
Like, stuff happened to you that sucks, and I said this about the Joker, this is the difference between a hero and a villain, is you're put in a bad situation, and how you decide to come out of it is how you will be defined. The Joker tried to leave Joker in this human relatable state, which is never going to work for a story about the Joker. And because there's competent writers and showrunners for the Penguin, they were not going to leave Oz in that state. So they pit you against him on like a character level because you like Vic. He kills Vic, so you're like, okay, I'm mad at you. And then on like the sick, twisted level, this last scene in the movie, he finally got what he wanted. He got the penthouse. Kind of.
Yeah, it looks like he's got a Rolls Royce or Bentley or something like that.
Yeah, the car is way nicer than the place.
Yeah.
I mean, the place is under construction. There's a point at the very end where they zoom out and like the balcony thing is like all destroyed. So it's just like, where's this dude living right now?
Yeah.
But he walks into the room. It's this room that's under construction, and all it is his mom in the hospital bed, and she's looking out into the city. And he's telling her, "Look, I finally got it for you, Mom. Like it's just the whole city. You like the view?" And she starts crying. And you know she's in a vegetative state, so she can't say anything or do anything. But tears start coming out of her eyes, and you're just like, "Dude, let her die. Like, just pull the plug."
Yeah,
like, this woman has suffered enough
she
because
does
of
not
you.
Want to be there.
Yeah, you killed her children. She knew she hated you for years. You get her wrapped up into this situation. You know, she physically got to suffer with the pinky thing. She's getting dragged around the town by these other gangsters.
Now she's trapped in her body. She can't.
She has dementia or Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Let her die.
Yeah, there's a name for it that I didn't lose something or other. Was it?
Oh.
Yeah, I can't. They gave it a weird name that I don't know what that disease is, but
yeah,
you know, whatever it is her mind is.
Yeah, she's not there. She can just like lose it at any time, and he keeps her alive for selfish reasons.
Yeah,
because he still wants to hear her say, "I'm proud of you."
He's
because
willing to leave her in that state.
If there's any chance of her coming out of it
with zero dignity,
that she would just come out of her vegetative state and be like, "Oh, Oz, I'm so proud. Look what you got us."
She doesn't want to be there.
That is not what's going to happen.
It's just but it's consistent with him.
Yeah,
this is him. He is a monster. He is a devil.
And then he walks into the living room, and at first you're like, is he hallucinating? Is that the younger actress who played his mom? And as you get closer, the dress, it's the same dress as when they were at Monroe's, the same hairstyle. As you get closer, it was his girl that was in the city who, you know, she kind of has all the women that work for her as escorts, and he starts dancing with her, and you're like, okay, this is weird. This isn't like
he's got mommy issues, man.
This is like real messed up stuff that he's got going on. And so he starts dancing with her, and you're like, okay, like weird, because this is somebody that you've been hooking up with for the last couple years, as far as we know. And now you've got her dressed up as your mom, and you're asking her to tell her you love her. Okay, fine. But then it goes on, and he's like, tell me you're proud of me.
Yeah, tell me you're proud of me, Ma.
And then she's like, I'm so proud of my boy. And you're like, okay, this has crossed a line. Not only do I hate this guy because he just killed Vic, but now this dude is completely sick in the head.
Yeah.
Like, what is it? Like Oedipus complex? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kill your dad, marry your mom.
Yeah.
But in that case, at least in defense of Oedipus, he didn't know. It happened because he was trying to avoid it.
Yeah.
But Penguin, this is what he wants. I mean, it's just so, you know, it's a just conclusion, and it brings some satisfaction to the viewer because you hate him by now.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I'm ready for Batman to bust in the window and just beat the tar out of him. Like,
yeah.
Viciously destroy him.
So when we were at your house filming the podcast, I don't even remember what the clip was about. Oh, I think it was when I had said, I can't wait for Batman to beat the brakes off this dude.
Yeah.
And I posted that clip on TikTok, and somebody had commented, and they were like, you're really taking the side of a billionaire, like somebody who grew up and had it all, over like a dude who's like a victim of society and all this stuff. How do you feel now, bro? Like, That is that is what you stood
My
behind
answer
now.
to that is go read the comic books. Go read the comic books. The Penguin is a villain. I don't even get me started on that whole thing. Bruce Wayne had it all except for his mom and dad, though, right? he had everything except his mom and dad. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, I didn't even bother responding to the guy. I was like,
there's no response needed for that.
Dude, if you're taking the side of Penguin, and this was like episode 5, maybe like around there, episode 6, I was like, dude, if you were taking the side of Penguin, like you're seeing this from the totally wrong perspective. And now that we're at the end of the show, dude, you really wanted to put your chips all in on Penguin like that?
Just there's a sociology class on some university campus somewhere. Go there. You'll find a lot of people to agree with you, but it ain't gonna be me.
No.
Sorry.
He's a villain. And thank you, Matt Reeves and the showrunner, whose name I'm forgetting. I'm sorry. Thank you for creating this universe. And thank you for creating an actual villain and not trying to make us sympathize for him like the Joker movie did.
Keep it true.
Thank you
Keep
for
it
making
straight.
Not only did you make him a villain, you fully leaned into it. And you said, this guy is not just evil, like doing evil things. This dude is unlikable down to his core.
Yeah.
This dude is messed up. Yep. So, yeah, like you just said, like I said a couple episodes ago, can't wait for the brakes to be beaten off Penguin. And at the end of the show, what makes this so great is even though it's a villain story, you have hope because the show ends with a flash of the bat signal.
Yes, sir.
And the bat signal, just go watch the first 10 minutes of the Batman, the whole monologue that he gives in the beginning of that movie. And the lesson that he learns at the end is a signal of hope for the city. It's a sign that somebody is out there to protect from evil, and that we didn't get to see Batman or Bruce Wayne by the end of it, but by seeing the bat signal at the end, it tells the viewer hope is coming. Good is coming. Justice is on its way. Don't worry. And that is how you tell a story about a villain.
Yeah.
Rightly.
Yeah, exactly. You leave him, in the state that he's in. There's some satisfaction. It's like because he does succeed, but he doesn't get what he really wants. But he still hasn't gotten what he really deserves. But we're told the cavalry is coming. The good guy, that's not a good analogy. The good guy, the hero, is gonna shine the light in this dark place.
Yeah.
And that's classic hero storytelling. That's Beowulf stuff. That's, hey, we got this dragon. He's been devouring our we've got this Grendel monster. It's been devouring every time we try to have a party in the beer house. He comes and kills us all. Can anybody defeat this thing? And Beowulf's like, yeah, I got you. That's ancient. That's like from the 600s, man. That you can go back further. That's why we like comic books. It's kind of hero worship. It's like the heroes exist to embody what we find to be heroic in our society. And in every society, there's a definition of evil, and there's a moral code, and it's different for different societies. But you and I know that written on the human heart, there is a sense of what's right and wrong, and a desire for justice. And so we're drawn to stories that have clear lines of villains and heroes. Now, Batman is not Clark Kent. You know what I mean? He's not Jor-El, like son of Jor-El.
Boy Scout. Yeah.
No, he's a complex hero, but he still stands for hope in a dark place.
Yeah.
In spite of the past that he has had to come out of. So yeah, that's what makes him so much fun. And it was a brilliant end to a fantastic series. It's the best one of the year.
Yeah.
But by far, like we were talking about, how does, there's this one, there's Agatha, and it's like, yeah, well, you can't really compare the two because Agatha is grab your cotton candy, your popcorn, and have some fun.
Yeah, fun, comic-y.
Yeah, no shade on it. This is worth a second watch, at least a second watch. It's something you could talk about in a literature, a literary discussion. This could be you could do a critical analysis of this and have a deep discussion. Which we're sort of doing. Here even just today on the podcast. Great stuff. Great. Bravo to everybody. I loved it.
Here's my hot take.
Oh, let's hear it.
Okay. This is going to ruffle feathers.
It was going to ruffle mine?
I think you might agree with me.
Oh, all right.
Colin Farrell's portrayal as the Penguin is up there with Heath Ledger's Joker.
Oh, I agree. I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
So my hands are hot too. It's a hot take. Yeah, I completely agree. I was just telling Debbie tonight, because I was explaining to her why I was bringing the Catwoman figurines to the podcast and to the comic room, and I was talking about Colin Farrell, who's, and I said, because she said, well, who plays the Penguin? I said, Colin Farrell. She goes, oh yeah, I like him. I said, but you won't know it's him.
Yeah.
Like, he disappears into the role.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm still looking at him in the last episode, trying to find him, and I cannot find him. I can't.
Yeah.
He became Penguin.
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I might, yeah, I agree with your hot take, and I preferred his performance to Heath Ledger's, because Heath Ledger was so good at it that he drove me nuts.
Yeah.
Which is good for being the Joker.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't stand it when he was on screen. It was like nails on a chalkboard. That's how good he was, right?
Yeah.
But that's what you need. The Joker should be that way.
Yeah.
Where in this case, Oz is just this arc that he plays in this. But I agree.
Yeah. It's slightly unfair to Heath Ledger only because Colin Farrell has so much screen time now as Penguin. Like, Heath Ledger didn't have nearly as much screen time as Colin Farrell has at this point. So I acknowledge that, but still, like, just the caliber at which they're portraying these characters, the fact that they are both lost in there, like, you can't. That is not the 10 things I hate about you guy. Like, that's just
is
not him.
No, it is not.
And that's not.
It's incredible.
I mean, I can only think of Banshees of Inisherin right now, but that's not the guy from Banshees of Inisherin.
No, it is not.
It's they get so lost in that role, and they both knock it out of the ballpark. They both kill it. They're both believable, hateable, just incredible. And I feel like generally people have just been scared to put anything close to Heath Ledger just because of the unfortunate turnout of all that stuff. But I would be confident saying that Colin Farrell.
It takes nothing away from Ledger's performance. That performance is legendary. Like, everybody knows it. It was, it's one of the greatest.
It's more of a huge compliment to Colin Farrell.
Yeah, that's right. Like, sorry, Danny DeVito, but your portrayal of Penguin has been eclipsed greatly. But I'm sure DeVito did what was asked of him. But that's one of the things I really appreciated about the series, and the way I'm hoping that Warner Brothers moves forward, and James Gunn. I don't want caricatures.
No,
you know what I mean? Like, I get it. Like, some of these characters, they were created in the 30s and 40s, and they got names like Clayface, and But I'm down with it's okay. Like, or Penguin, or the Joker, or the Riddler. Like, but they can be played seriously. They don't have to be caricatures of them. And I appreciate that. And Colin Farrell will. I think to your point, 20 years from now, people will say the way we think about Penguin as a character is there's a way we thought of him before Colin Farrell played him, and the way we thought about him since he played him, and that's due to the performance that he put out. It was amazing.
Yeah,
just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's not done. His story is not done.
No, I mean, he's like Teflon. Like, nothing kills this guy.
Yeah,
and he's going to be around. Like, he's a staple villain. So he's not going to die.
Yeah,
he might spend a stint in Arkham or something. I don't know what might be planned, but he's not dying.
Yeah. So, yeah, great show.
Yeah,
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. Yeah,
a near perfect show.
Yeah, it's the best I've seen. The best thing all year. And that's not saying a ton, because not a lot came out this year, but it's the best I've seen since what? I mean, what would you say was the last like really good? I guess since the Batman.
Yeah.
And that was 2021, I think.
22.
22, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't even seem really fair because it feels like it's the same world,
Yeah.
But so
I would put this up there with the levels of the Daredevil show, especially season 3. Like, and potentially even better, even though that might be hard for me to say. But just the caliber of acting, the writing, like you said, the tight writing and storytelling. Like Daredevil had that same thing where it's just like, it unfortunately doesn't have everything wrapped up because they thought they were going to do more with the show.
Right.
There was going to be more seasons, but pretty much everything that you knew that they weren't setting up for a future is done incredibly well through those first 3 seasons. And we got it coming up again in March. So some of those things that were left unfinished in season 3 of Daredevil, hopefully we'll see in season 4. But yeah, just top notch.
Yeah.
Just some of the best Breaking Bad levels of.
it was great. Yeah, the storytelling, the pace.
The pacing was incredible.
It was just everything. I just kept thinking it can't get better.
Yeah.
And it just kept getting better.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, wow, how are they going to pay this off? Like, they've set it really up, but do they have the courage to do what needs to be done?
Yeah.
And they clearly did.
Yeah. So we got to call it because this camera is going to turn off soon because it only goes on for 2 hours. So
aren't you guys happy about that?
we could definitely stay here for another hour.
Definitely.
Yeah. Go watch it if you haven't already. There's this podcast that I watch and listen to. It's like my white noise when I go to sleep. They do comic book movies. And so when a movie comes out, doesn't necessarily have to be a comic book, but they'll call it best movie ever or worst movie ever. And it's just like, they always give it like 1. And so this best show ever for sure.
Yeah.
I'd put it in that category.
I put in that category. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
all around.
thanks so much for watching.
Yeah.
Appreciate you guys. Follow us on Instagram at Spros Comics, at Mr. Period Longbox. And we'll be back next week with, we'll be back next week with a list of hot takes.
Now that I know what it means.
Yeah. So that's what we'll do next week.
Sounds great.
And yeah, some more show and tell and maybe some crazy news that comes out. So thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you guys. And we'll see you next week.
See you.